And a lot of people go into that. What have we done wrong? What can we learn? And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just you're not in that local area. Sometimes it's they might go onto socials and things like that and go, that's not the fit for us. Like that there is a scale, and my tool is really great at working out that scale now where you sit. But even when you get in that 95 to 100% percentile where you should be getting it, there could be just something else. And nobody will ever know unless you're on that assessing team. Because I've been on assessing teams where, and I'll be honest, where we've walked into the room and it's not in any of the criteria, but they say, oh, if we've got a business of a certain calibre, is 50% female owned maybe, we're going to give them an extra priority. If they can do it for the same amount of money, all those things, everything's lining up and you've got two, which one do you choose? They give us a direction sometimes if that's the one you need to choose.
Welcome to the Leaders of Influence podcast, the show where leadership is not a title. It's all about influence and impact. Each episode, I sit down with leaders who have built trust, moved teams, and shaped outcomes where it mattered most. No motivational quotes, just the decisions, the habits, and the pressure-tested principles that create real influence. If you want to lead with more clarity, credibility, and care factor, hit follow right now so you don't miss the next conversation. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the Find Your Influence podcast with Anton, where we talk all things influence with an amazing group of human team. Robyn Baker. Let me tell you about Robyn Baker. Just if you need a grant, if you need something written, please, or a tender, please go and see Robyn. Robyn Baker is the host of the Connection Currency. Robyn's the founder, leader of Busy Connecting, the founder of Grants and Tender Services. He's a senior advisor in strategic growth, digital marketing and SME development. And that's why I say I lean on Robyn and have done so much in the past. Robyn's an investor and a board member. Robyn is an author and a speaker. And what I didn't know about Robyn only told me this like probably November last year. Robyn is connected to every single senior business person in Australia, even though she is probably very humble about that. But Robyn just knows everyone. So about Robyn Baker, a seasoned strategist and communications professional who helps businesses shine through customized non-cookie cutter solutions. Robyn specializes in practical grant and tender strategies and applications, targeted, I love that word, digital marketing, and strategic growth initiatives, helps businesses go to increase their turnover, which are designed to fit each client's unique needs. Her work blends hands-on writing and editing with high-impact advisory services, enabling SMEs to secure funding, win new clients, scale with confidence. Robyn's approach emphasizes collaboration, trust, measurable outcomes, not just a one-size-fits-all, and unconditional love. Thanks for joining me. You're amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Oh.
I've got some cool new stuff too that I can share with you if you want to. I haven't shared it really with anybody except for trusted clients, and this is the first time on a podcast I can share this. But I've got some stuff I'll get you to fill out. I have a tool that I don't know if I told you, back in 2022, my uni students helped me out develop something. And we've had a couple of iterations of it and it's working beautifully. And when it comes to funding, we can boutique individually use the tool, which is diagnostic and can analyze what would be suitable for you.
When do we start? We will be a client.
I've got to send you the email, but I thought I'll save that for today. I haven't told anybody else about it. Nobody else has it. I have a few government organisations knocking on my door that would like it, but I'm just going to keep it for my people at the moment.
Please
just to leverage them up before everyone else might get their hands on it.
Please send me a proposal or something today. Look at this.
Yeah.
Business on podcast.
I'll send it to you.
So please do that. Well, we'd love to be involved. Thank you, and thank you for thinking of us as well. Told you to.
Yeah.
This is how much, these great humans do for us. And hopefully I've probably never helped Robyn as much as she's helped me, but I hope one day to be
That's
able
all
to
right.
repay the favour. You're amazing. So team and our amazing guest, Robyn. Robyn, influence. You started your career. Actually, could you do that? Can you just tell people, like, what's the
Where I
background?
came from.
Yeah, how the
My
heck did you get into
background.
writing tenders?
I'm old. Hair dye goes a long way. I'm old. So in 1980, how old were you in 1980, Anton? Were you born?
I was 8. I was 8 in 1980.
Oh, so in 1980, I started my career with the Brisbane City Council.
Right.
I was young.
Yeah.
I will
Good.
admit,
Oh, that's
child
good.
prodigy. Just joking.
Yeah.
No, but and I had some fantastic mentors that actually pushed me really hard to do things. I was that quiet, shy little person, believe it or not. I have photos to prove how quiet and shy I was.
Right.
But yeah, I had some great mentors, and they pushed me through the council and helped me go up the ladder in the council. And for a female, that was a huge challenge in those days. And I got up. I worked in all the different departments. They put me up for this program where you got to work in all the different departments.
Wow.
And the idea was you were supposed to come back to where you started from, and I never did. But one thing that was consistent is that I was always on committees and projects where we had tenders and assessing those tender processes. So I learned from really fabulous experts in that area at a really young age. Learnt to read documents that I didn't understand and how to read them fast and everything. And I went on then to lead teams. And when we developed the grant program in the largest council in the Southern Hemisphere, I was part of that team. So I'm really proud that I was part of that team that developed the first grants in Brisbane City Council. So I left there in 2000. One of my kids was just not well, and in and out of hospital all the time. So she needed a parent and she wanted me. And so I stepped back, thinking that, I'd step back from work completely, but I still contracted. Because people who had left the council went on to become bigger and better things, and they reached out to me and said, like, we'd like you to look at this and we'd like you to do that. And so, that consultancy work built from there. In 2016, when I was working in corporate doing consultancy and for an organization that I'm attached to, I had this discussion with them. Like, we were ringing clients and we were getting them like hundreds of billions of dollars, big clients, because it's corporate and that's the space. And they would go, they would say to us, "Oh yeah, that's great." We'd ring them and say, "You've got a tender. You got that tender," and they'd go, "Oh, that's great. Just ring Frank in accounts." And there was just no love in it. And I was at that stage where I thought, this is where there's huge money doing tender documents and being on those teams, but there was just no love. And I wanted to go back to the little days and some of our clients had grown with us from really small entities of mum and dad businesses where we'd grown them into businesses that you can see, like when you drive down highways, they're building roads and they're building big buildings and stuff like that. And I wanted to go back to when I rang them and said to them, "You've got that tender for like 50,000 or 100,000." They'd be crying on the phone. So I missed that.
I don't know if I've ever cried on the phone to you, but I've got a few of those phone calls from you. But
I
what we
think
do,
I think
Robyn,
some of your girls, I think
we
Ali
ring the
did.
bell.
Ring
We ring the bell when you ring.
Ring the bell. I think some of your team have cried and gone, "Oh my God, oh my God."
I reckon they would.
So I just wanted to go back to that,
Oh.
and so in 2016, I toyed with the idea. I said to those I was working with, and they joked that I'd have a safe place to fall if I didn't make it. So I stepped out and started my own consultancy, um, with no clients because I wasn't going to take from our corporate, no clients. But I just stepped out, put some stuff up on Facebook, and all of a sudden, People giving me shout outs. I went to I took one of my clients, which probably the change for me in small business was one of my clients. No, I didn't take her. I encouraged her to apply for an award. And she did. And she became a finalist. And she said, I'm a finalist. I've got to go to Melbourne. You're coming with me. I've booked flights. I've booked accommodation. And we're going down there for 4 days straight. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I want to go to a conference for 4 days straight. But I went down, fell in love with the organisation. And I'm handing out her business card. She said, what am I going to say? What, who you are? And I said, just say I'm your business manager, because pretty much that's what I was doing in her business. I was helping her set up strategies. So I'm expecting her to be running around saying, Robyn's my business manager. I'm running around handing out her business cards, chatting to people, networking. And she's running around going, why are you getting more money on your home loan? Robyn can get you a grant probably for that. You should be doing attendance. So she was giving me shout outs and I didn't even know. And I've got all these people coming at me. And then it just went from there. It just snowballed crazy. And when the pandemic, or as I like to call it, the great toilet paper shortage of the world, cut in, when that happened, I was looking at stepping away. My husband retired and I was looking at doing the same thing. But then I found businesses, really great guys in business, just needed me in there to give them a hand to keep them there. So I thought I'd stick it out, and I'm still here.
Well, we're grateful you did. How did we meet? How did you and I get in? Oh,
well,
Stacey,
and so this is
Stacey
the weird
Baker?
thing.
Was it Stacey?
And I don't know, and I will be honest right here, right now, I don't think I've ever met Stacey. I'm like, I do, when you do speaking things, you meet lots of people, and I am old. I can remember a face. I'm not so great with names, but I always ask clients, how did you hear about me? Because we just sort of track and get an idea of where everyone's coming from. And I remember you telling me that, and I'm like, oh, and I don't even know if we're friends on Facebook or if we're LinkedIn, but I think it's been that and when you say about find your influence, I think that influence I found it at an early stage, like in my career, and then again in my small business, and that people just give me shout outs. I go on Facebook pages where I'm tagged and people giving me shout outs. I'm like, I don't know that person. They must have heard me speak at something or whatever. And I don't know, it's that elevation of, I hate saying it, but people call me an expert in my field. And I hate saying that, because I actually think the experts are the people who have worked in government for 40 odd years, doing the same job, assessing tenders. Like, they're probably the experts, not me. But yeah, so, and I think that's what happened. I think somebody through an organization where we've been part of, she must have said, I've got somebody looking for a tender writer, and they've gone, you need Robyn. Yeah.
I'm
And I'm one of the very few females that does tenders and grants.
There you go. Fun fact.
So yeah.
Fun
Yeah.
fact. Well, you do it
Yeah.
well. You do it well. Keep up the good work. We're glad you
I hope
stayed.
so. I'm always hope so. Well, I always say a win for my clients, a win for me. Like, I'm devastated when we don't get money. If something happens, I'm devastated, and there's many reasons why, and it's not just just your end in the application. It's the competitiveness often.
Absolutely, and it's equally as hard when you don't get one as it is positive when you do. Because there's a lot you don't get, obviously. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that, should I? There's some that you don't get, and there's some that you do, and and the emotions are just as high either way. And you're always grateful when you do, and you're always, what can we learn when you don't? So
yeah, and a lot of people go into that. What have we done wrong? What can we learn? And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just,
I get that.
you're not in that local area. Sometimes it's they might go onto socials and things like that and go, that's not the fit for us. Like there is a scale, and my tool is really great at working out that scale now where you sit. But even when you get in that 95 to 100% percentile where you should be getting it, there could be just something else.
Mm.
And nobody will ever know unless you're on that assessing team. Because I've been on assessing teams where, and I'll be honest, where we've walked into the room and it's not in any of the criteria, but they say, oh, if we've got a business of a certain caliber, is 50% female owned, maybe.
Oh.
We're going to give them an extra priority.
Oh, okay.
So,
Fair enough.
yeah.
No
But,
things happen. And
you know, so if they can deliver the same thing, if they can do it for the same amount of money, all those things, everything's lining up and you've got two, which one do you choose?
That's it.
They give us a direction sometimes if that's the one you need to choose.
And that's fair enough too.
If it comes down to that, and it mightn't come down to, it mightn't be any female businesses that apply, you know.
That's
so
right. Yeah, and that's the prerogative of the assessors, you know. Like I always say that, you know, everything's fair in love and war, and the assessors have got a job to do. And if they like the application, you'll get it. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah.
We're lucky we got you, so most of the time they do. But you know, it's sometimes they don't.
You probably shouldn't tell people that. It might go against you. Who knows?
Okay. Well, that's right. Well, I think people know anyway. Remember, once people know you're so synonymous as a tender rider that, you know, I think you that one example that I can think of, the really big one, you know, they knew that we knew you before we told them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think.
And if there's a conflict of interest, I always will declare it. I would never put anybody in a position that, if there's a conflict of interest. And I don't think I've made enemies along the way.
No,
I hope I have.
And that's why you're still in business. That's why you're still in business, and that's why people give you a shout out. You're such a good human.
Yeah.
And I think, I think that's really noted in the industry. You're highly respected. So, now tell me very quickly on the topic of influence. How would you define influence? What's the definition of that word, pretty please?
Influence. It's it's that when I say and it's really humbling when you think about it, but when you say to somebody you need that person or you know, you should use that product, it doesn't just come from the people who call themselves influencers. It comes from real people. And I think being authentic and honest, and people if people value your values and stand by your morals and values, the influence that you can then bring to them, you know, like I've got some really trusted people in my space that if they said to me, do this, use that, go here, I would, just off their recommendation. I think that's powerful when it comes to influence. I think you need to be aware. Like I was never aware when I said to somebody, you should apply for this award, you know, and they just go and do it, and then I find out they're part of those awards.
Wow.
And I'm judging them like it's it's just I think it's trust. I think finding your influence. I think people who trust you, who have the same values and morals as you, and they go, well, if she's doing that, then I'm going to do that.
Whoa. Because if people, so what you're saying is if people trust you, they'll follow you, whether you know or not, whether you even know that you influenced them or not.
Yeah. And I sort of think, you know, with the influences that you see on social media and that, in a way, psychologically, that's what's going on. Because in a way, you know, say it's a female influencer, everyone's going, I want to look like her, I want to do what she's doing. How do I do that? So they're buying anything that person's selling.
That's right. And they're buying into the dream too, aren't they?
Yeah, into the dream. You know, like I'm never selling anything. I'm just like, if people ask me, I'll tell them, you know. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. In saying that, can you just cast your mind back to that 1980s period, which is really interesting to hear you say that you had great leaders and mentors then. So this is a big shout out to the Brisbane Regional Council, and a shout out to the Gladstone Regional Council, who are in that direction. Who we've done a lot of leadership work with, and they've got great mentors there too.
There's some great Brisbane people up in Gladstone too.
Who's
like
there?
they end up everywhere. They end up
and we've
everywhere.
got to, and look, let's give our females a great shout out too. We've got an amazing female CEO up here, Lisa Dowling, who was on a panel discussion at a Women in Government conference recently, and from all reports, as we expected, did an amazing job and spoke beautifully, and is always a beautiful representative for our region. So, Lisa. Going back to the 80s, wow, 1980s leadership was not like it in 2026 leadership, and you had good mentors back then. So, can you remember who some of those were and why they were?
I can, and unfortunately, I think most of them are gone now. Like, I've gone to, unfortunately.
On the planet.
Hey, sadly.
R.I.P.
Well, like, you got to think about how old I was, and they were probably 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
Some of them were only 7. When I look back, it's really sad to talk about, but I went to somebody's passing celebration not so long ago and they were only 7 years older than me. They just, at that time, 7 years seemed like a phenomenal amount of life that they'd lived.
What?
But they saw, so when women were saying, there were a lot of women who were trying to, and I say to other women, when we were in that same space, we were trying to break the glass ceiling, but we were doing it on our own without good guys supporting us. And you never will get equality and equal pay is coming in, but you will never get equality in those things if you're trying to just do it as one team. You need to all work together as a team. So you need good guys calling out the bad guys that are doing the wrong things or behaving in a certain way. And I don't know. It was really interesting because they just became, they were leaders in whatever area I was working in. And here's the thing, when you say about that, find your influence and who your influence is, they moved in the same circles.
Oh.
So the guys that were great mentors to me that said to me, you need to put in for this position, or you need to push to be onto that committee. So I leveraged myself when other females were saying, no, I'm not going to be a token female. I went, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with, and I love saying to men in a women's room now, I used to be the token female in the male room, and look how far we've come there. But yeah, women were going, no, we need to stay strong. We need to do this. We need to band together. And I didn't ever think I wasn't banding together, but I thought if somebody doesn't step out of their comfort zone, and somebody doesn't go, well, we need a female representative on that interview panel. We need a female representative in that committee or that board or whatever. If nobody was going to step outside and say that, how could we change it? How could we change the rooms that we're not in? How can we get conversation in those rooms if we're not in them? So I don't know. I think I was brain dumping one day as a 18-year-old onto my boss at the time, who'd been my boss for a little while, and he was like, yeah, you should be on this. And then he kind of like pushed me, and I said to him, don't you want me here anymore? When he kept saying to me, you should put in for this job, you should put in for that job, you should put in for this job, I was like, don't you want me here anymore? And he's going, you've outgrown us, you need to keep growing. So and then he gave me a magnificent reference. And then I had somebody else who he was actually, we used to all hang. It's really funny. The council had this thing called the council club, and it was on the 21st floor, and everybody would head up there on a Friday afternoon. So there was another guy.
1980s.
Yeah, it was wonderful actually. We made a lot of connections and a lot of networking.
I was going to say that's a
lot of networking. Be surprised. And so then the one job that I applied for was another great mentor, and and it just, I don't know, it just kind of, I got lucky, I suppose, and it's kind of happened.
Wow.
I just don't know. It just kind of happened.
And it doesn't matter how it happened or what. You're the beneficiary of some great leaders along.
Yeah. And I value leadership. And when I became a leader, and I have written, I don't think I've got the book in my office, but I have written in an anthology about leadership, and I wrote a story about one of the teams that I led not long before I sort of left the council, where there were some tricky things going on, and how, like I always led with honesty and transparency with my team.
Right.
And I always made sure that they all felt valued. And the really interesting thing is, some of them now have amazing jobs in amazing places, and they still reach out to me for advice. I find that extremely humbling, that like they have just kicked goals like crazy in their career. And here's little old me, and people saying to me, how do you know that person? I'm like, oh, I always say they were in a team that I was part of. And then they say to the person, like, she was the boss. What do you mean?
That's right.
She was my boss.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
so I love that they reach out to me. They trust me enough that if there's, and so, like there's some of them personal lives, even they'll tap in and go, hey, what's happening with you? And I'm like, what's happening with you? Like, I haven't heard from you for ages or whatever.
Wow.
And I find when I go to other places in the world, if I don't catch up with them for lunch or coffee, I'm in big trouble.
That's right. I'm offended
because
you've ignored me. I love it, Robyn.
Yeah.
How beautiful. What a beautiful story. Talking about that, is there one name or one person that you can really think about where, and this is your chance not to be humble, just that you're most proud of? Like, there's someone in your team that you thought, you know what, I see their potential, maybe they don't, and they've risen a great, like, who have you influenced?
I probably won't name her.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. That's okay.
I love it. I love confidentiality of all of the stuff you do.
Yeah,
everything's got to be
I didn't sign an NDA, but if she wasn't well known, I probably would name her.
I told you, everyone. I told you, Robyn knows everyone.
I remember this team member who was younger than me, and probably only about 7 years younger than me now when I look back. Anyway, but she was going to throw it all in. Something had happened with a member from another team who their team leader was worked in a different way to me, that's for sure, but could never understand why they didn't get results, and couldn't understand why the amount of people going off on sick leave was just phenomenal all the time. All those flags that
those indicators
we don't see that as an indicator. We're like, why? They've got good people. I've given them one of my people who's a really good person who never went off on sick leave, who's off on sick leave all the time. Like, is anybody checking in? Are they okay? So a member of that team had a run-in with a member of my team, let's say.
Right.
Yeah. And
your team member was knocked around by that and wanted to actually quit.
Yeah. Enough that, well, I'm just going to leave. And at the time, as the organisation, and they still do, not just Brisbane City Council, a lot of councils do, you can go, and I did it too, you can go while you're working for them and continue and get higher education. And they provide, they paid the HEX fees, they paid the books, they give you time off for study leave, and when you pass your modules, they give you a pay raise. Like, it seems crazy, but it makes you loyal, and that's one of the things that made me so loyal and stay with the organisation for so long, is because they had supported me. So it would have meant that she not only would she have walked away from her job, but she would also have stepped away from having that support, university support.
Wow.
So she never would have finished her degree, and I think she's got multiple degrees now and a doctorate and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was just,
what do you do in those situations, Robyn? Like, how do you, is it one conversation, or is it more,
it's more than one conversation.
I was going to say.
Yeah. And you don't, looking back, you don't realize at the time you're actually stepping through a system, like you're creating a system and stepping through a system. So it's hearing and making sure that team member is fully heard, fully seen. You get their full side of the story, unbiased. full side of the story.
Well,
and then I approached the other leader who was the same level as me. We were the same level as each other. And, you know, I used to get on with them okay. I just didn't like the way
they led.
I didn't know at the time. It was just this feeling. I just don't like the way you work, but I don't know why I don't know the way you work, you know. So having that conversation with them, so I pulled them aside and I said, hey, listen, we've got a problem. I've got a team member that's going to resign and pull the pin. It's not going to look good for me, but most of all, it's not going to look good for you. I said, well, it's not that it's not going to look good for me. I think I said to them, how am I going to replace her? I think that was more my feeling. Like it was quite selfish. And I think for me, to them was, it's not going to look great for anybody, especially you. I think that was more how I came at it.
Right.
And they were like, what's the problem? And I said, well, this is what's gone down. And they were like, well, that's not how that's supposed to happen. And my team member's wrong. And I said, okay, so instead of telling your team member that they're wrong, can we have a discussion, the three of us, with your team member, like with you there? And then can we have a discussion with all four of us? So it's like dampening down. Like, so you're trying to put out a fire with one, and then you're trying to put out the fire with the other one. And like when we had the discussion with their team member, they just sat there and let me run with it.
Wow.
Because, and they said to me afterwards, I don't know how to handle her when she gets all fired up. So the other team leader was a guy.
Right.
And I don't know how to handle her when she gets fired up. So I've just thought I'd leave that to you. I'm like, sure. So it was just listening to them, listening that they were heard and valued.
Right.
And then the problem was communication.
Cool.
So I was communicating to my team that, you know, this is your role and these are the other people. So this is your people supply chain. I never used to call it that, but I used to say, this is our chain of people. So that person needs to do this so that you can do this, and you need to do this so that that person can do that. And everybody needs to do it well, because then we're excited and we get success, and we're all happy. So explaining to, and he never did that, and just explaining to this other person, okay, so if you do this way, then it won't flow, like it doesn't work, and explaining to them what the other positions around them did. There was a very 80s thing. You never showed anybody your job description. You never talked about what you were getting paid. That was it was a very 80s thing, and coming from a female point of view, like, one thing I could say to this other female is we don't have to act like men to hold positions that we hold. You know, we don't have to be like the guys. So if the guys are doing it this way, we don't have to. That's what we bring different to the table. So sorting that out. And she stayed on. She knew she was supported by me, because she said I would, you know, and she says that to me now, I never would have hung it out if I didn't know that you didn't have my, you know, if I felt you didn't have my back, I wouldn't have hung out there. Yeah.
Wow.
And the other one became a member of my team inevitably.
No. What
a minute and
into the story.
Yeah, well, when we had, so we had one of the team members, her husband got a transfer, and so we had an opening, and she applied, and she's like, I don't know whether you're going to want me. I said, are we going to have to have weekly talks? She said, I'd love that. So,
have one-on-one.
I don't know.
We go and get.
So she wanted, yeah. And there was that, and she said to me, there's that gravitational pull, and I said, I don't want to pull away from somebody else's team, though. You know, like.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this just from.
It's got a very happy ending. So yeah.
So let me unpack this just for a moment. Did the protagonist and antagonist end up becoming team members? Like, did the two ladies?
Yeah, but funnily enough, the one that was my team member, she was a level higher by that stage.
All right.
Because she'd stuck in my team and I'd grown my team, so we had I'd grown it. So we'd had, what did they used to do? They used to do EBAs, and we had renegotiated
Wow.
some better things for my team, and I'd grown my team. So actually when she came in, because I said to her, you might have to take instruction from time to time from this other person. And she was like, she was like, yeah, I can work with that. Yeah. I said, I'll have both of your backs, but I don't want any. Yeah. And sometimes and it was a personality thing, but, like I had another team, after that. I had another team, and there were two women that hated each other just looking at each other. I'm just like, what don't you like? I used to say to one, what don't you like about her? They work, but it was just very, you get that friction.
And what was the answer?
What don't you like about her? And the other one was like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, what don't you like about her? And she's like, I don't know, I just don't like her. Anyway, I kind of forced them over probably about 18 months to be friends, and they ended up being bridesmaids for each other, and they're still friends.
Stop it.
That's the one I love.
That's a good story. That's a good yarn.
That's a Stacey. Stacey, are you listening to me?
Stacey
and Tanya, I can drop those names.
Good on you. Oh, that's lovely. I love those two stories. They're such great stories, and there's so many. I hope a lot of the leaders that we work with listen to stories like that and know that, it's in the last couple of days, Robyn, I've had some sessions around the countryside and literally around Queensland, and the question inevitably comes up, what do I do with that tough team member? And I think listening to your story is about have their back, go into bat for them, maybe go and see their leader, or whatever it takes.
I don't know these days. How do you get into each other's lives or whatever? You don't need to embed yourself into each other's life. But if someone comes to work and they're crying, or they're worked up, or they're upset, and psychosocial safety is a big thing these days. If something's affecting them in their home life, outside of work life,
we wrote a book about it.
Yeah, there you go. I think it's the leader's duty to say to that person, this is, if their safe place isn't at home, then their safe place should be at work. They need a safe place somewhere.
Oh,
and
no one has ever said that before.
But people spend most of their lives at work. So if you can't come into work and go, look, I don't want to give you the details, but my home life's shocking at the moment. You can have a little bit of compassion and understanding and empathy for them, at least. And who knows, like we all go through stuff, sure, and they don't need to tell everybody their problems, and necessarily burden everybody, because you might have somebody in the team who has the same problems that just doesn't want to talk about it, or they could be somebody who doesn't want to talk about it. But I think if you have somebody that comes in and they blow up, or they're really upset, I think a leader's duty isn't to just wander off and go, oh, I'll let them sort it for themselves. I think a leader needs to say, hey, you okay? Like, is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything I can do to make your life easier at the moment?
Wow, I love that. And with the premise that the leader can't fix it, they don't have to.
No, you can't fix it, but you can be an ear. And you can be another sounding board. And I mean, in business, it's very much like that in business, like our family and our friends who, if they don't have a small business, they don't get what you're doing and they don't understand it. And they're just often those cheerleaders from the sideline. But sometimes when you need to download about things in business, you need trusted people around you that you can download to. So how's that different in a workplace with other people working there? So, and I think it's kind of a responsibility when it comes to psychosocial safety that we should be there for each other, and we should get to know each other. Like, you don't have to live in their house and be in their pockets, sort of thing. But
no, that's right.
Just have an understanding, and then if there is a blow up, you can sort of.
You can, you know that there's something sitting in behind.
You can have a conversation in saying, that person, trust me, that person is going through a lot at the moment.
That's it. I agree totally. I'm just going through the book at the moment because I'm looking for, it's funny. we're now legally obliged to provide that human support. There is one of the elements of the psychosocial guidelines. So the 14 elements are job demands, low job control, poor support, lack of role clarity. These are the things that cause people to be at work: poor organisational change management, inadequate coordination, poor workplace relationships, harassment, violence and aggression, traumatic events and material. Maybe it doesn't say that implicitly, lack of support, but it sort of implies that as leaders, we really do need to step up and be there if our team members need us, for sure. And I got this question just yesterday, literally yesterday, from a seasoned leader, probably a 20-year leader. Anton, I still struggle with all the emotional stuff that goes on in 2026, that people come in and they've got exactly all of the stuff, all the things. How do I deal with all of that? And this person is a Dido worker, drives in, drives out, and shared at the end of that conversation when we were talking about, just being there for them and all that. And he said, yeah, I try to do all that. And I said, cool. He said, I get in my car and I drive home. And he said, I drive, hours and hours. So I don't radio on. I don't want, he said, I've just got to decompress. He said, it's that hard some days, and there's that much emotion and that many conversations to have, that he just needs his own time going home. And I thought, wow.
Yeah, but that driving home doing that, I'd say sit down, write it all down, or talk to your phone, get it all out. It's like going to bed with it all sitting in your head, isn't it? Get it all out.
That's right.
And then, I don't know, put on AC/DC or something and drive home then, like decompressing while you're driving and going over those conversations is probably like going to bed trying to do that.
Yeah, that's probably true too for that person.
Yeah.
Because he just finds it so difficult, and that's that's the leader's world, isn't it, at the moment, that we've just we've got.
And the other thing is too, you've got to have support around those leaders.
Of course,
that's
exactly.
The organizations need to also support their leaders, because they have challenges in their lives and that. But also knowing their leaders need to know too, like, you can't handle everybody's problem, and they might need counselling, they might need this or they might need that. Where do you send them to? Where do you refer them to?
EAP.
That, and leaders need to know and have those systems in place.
No.
So excuse me, to me, that's me hearing a leader that's not feeling supported themselves.
That's true too. Cool.
That they haven't been given the tools to deal with that.
Yeah.
That they've got to decompress in their own head. They should be able to step away from work and go, I've had a great day, or I haven't had a great day, but I know how I'm going to deal with it tomorrow, and life now. Because otherwise they're going to take that into their personal lives, and it's just the community then's affected.
Exactly. And on that vein, Robyn, it's funny, a couple of days ago I was doing a session, and a 15-year leader had never had any leadership training.
Just rolled into jobs.
That's right. You just end up in roles, and all of a sudden 15 years passes and you're in this extreme.
And I never had any leadership training. That was never a thing. But I learned from really good mentors, and I consider that my leadership training.
I love it.
Yeah.
Robyn Baker, you have been amazing. We've talked leadership, we've talked influence. Have you got a inspirational quote or a leadership mantra that you can leave our audience with, that they're going to walk away energized by?
Well, walk away energized. A leadership mantra. I don't have a mantra. I don't have a chant or anything like that. But I think if you can, and it comes down to that whole thing, if you can leave your workplace in a better place than you found it, then you're probably a good leader. You're probably the right person to have there. If you're leaving that place when you came in, and it's better, and people are smiling and people are happy, you don't all need to be dancing on the tables or anything, but people are happy. People want to come to work, they want to show up, and you're leaving the place in a better place than you found it. I think that's all any of us can do.
you leave us better than you found us. So thank you.
I hope so.
Let me do a quick wrap up. Team, for all our listeners and viewers, you heard it first here. An amazing in. And Robyn Baker, who, writes grants, knows everyone in the business community. People respect Robyn. Robyn in the last, decade or two has become really, really synonymous with tenders and grant writers. She makes the lives of small business owners so much easier because she helps us with our turnover and revenue. Robyn's talked about, being a woman in the 80s, and I think being a woman in the 80s would be very different to being a woman in the 2020s. Robyn would have been a trailblazer back in the day. You can see that, you can hear that coming through from Robyn. But what Robyn also talks about is having great leaders and great mentors, which is really different story to, I guess, what most other people would have experienced. Or maybe not. But it's great to hear Robyn talk about that. And a shout out to the Brisbane Regional Council, if I haven't done that already, and a shout out to the Gladstone Regional Council, who are a client of ours. Now, Robyn's shared some things about team leadership and about how to go into, I guess, challenging situations with team members, and how to put a facilitator's hat on, which I loved, and go and have conversations at the right level and talk about the right challenges. And that was a really powerful story for me, that one. And then to see how it all ended positively. And I think the key message that Robyn's left us with today is leave the workplace. And I'm going to say, because my mission on the planet is to leave people better than I found them, Robyn's measure of success for a leader is, have you left your workplace better than you found it? Team, thanks, Robyn Baker.
Thank you for listening to the Leaders of Influence podcast with Anton Gint. And if this episode gave you even one idea that you can use this week, can you please do me these 3 things? Follow the show so you never miss an amazing leadership conversation. Share this episode with one leader on your team or on another team who you think could benefit from it. And if you want the full framework, the full experience, and to dive deeper, grab the book Leaders of Influence. By the way, that book's been a week on the bestseller list. It is built to help you lead with conviction, earn buy-in faster, and drive execution without having to chase people. If you want to bring leaders of influence into your business, if you want to have a conversation around how you can create leaders of influence, reach out. Let's talk. The links to connect with us are in the show notes. See you on the next episode.